Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. I am your host, Stephen Ray, along with my co-host, Heath Hopkins, and we have a very exciting show for you today on the eve of Thanksgiving. So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we get you ready for this weekend's college football and also talk about some of the breaking news that happened this morning. Head coach Nick Saban had tested positive for COVID. We will get in there and break all of that down and also be joined by Mr. College Football himself, Tony Barnhart, and Cole Cubelic will be stopping by to join us on the Stingray Show to talk about his playing days at Auburn and, of course, the Mississippi State Ole Miss game this weekend, only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn.
Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee! They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium! Are you kidding me? My God almighty! What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game! What a play! Wow!
Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. I am your host, Stephen Ray. And without further ado, let me go ahead and bring up my co-host, Heath, and we will get going on this very exciting edition of the Stingray Show. Heath, how's it going, my friend? We're actually doing a Wednesday show on the eve of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we got something a little different for today, and it's always exciting when we have Mr. College Football stop by just before Thanksgiving.
Yes, and of course, Cole Cubelic as well. So we want to thank both of them. So without further ado, let me go on ahead. Let's not keep Mr. Football waiting. So let's go ahead and bring him in here, Mr. Tony Barnhart. Tony, how are you doing today, sir?
Stephen, we are doing well. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you too. All right, well, first off, what are your thoughts about the news that broke this morning about Nick Saban having COVID? What can you tell us about that?
Well, it came as no surprise given the fact that we've got a spike everywhere in Alabama, Georgia. There's spikes all over the place. It's unfortunate, and what is different about this time as opposed to last time is at that time, the first time around, Coach Saban did not have any symptoms. He was asymptomatic. Well, this time he does have symptoms. Right. What that means is you don't have the option of taking multiple tests to try to prove a false positive. He will have to go through the regular quarantine at home and won't be available for Saturday's game in the Iron Bowl.
Well, first off, let me just go ahead and say, obviously, last night, the first initial playoff rankings were released. What was your initial thought of how the committee selected the teams in the top four?
I thought it was about right. I mean, the only issues or questions I had before it was Clemson going to be ranked ahead of Ohio State because of their body of work? They're 7-1. Ohio State's 4-0. So did that give Clemson the 3 spot? Turned out that it did. The other question I had was at 5 and 6, where I felt pretty confident that Florida and Texas A&M would be there. Would Texas A&M be 5 because of their head-to-head win over Florida back in October? That turned out to be the case. So, and then after that, yeah, I wondered about would Cincinnati stay at 7, and they did. Northwestern jumped into the top 10 at 8. That's about right. I think the only quibble that a lot of people have is if you've watched BYU play, you know that's a really good team.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a playoff team? No, but they're better than number 14. So I think of all the issues that cropped up, that was the one that surprised me the most. But when you go back and look at BYU's schedule, it's not a very good schedule, and the committee places a whole lot of weight on that.
Tony, you know more than we do on this. With all the craziness in COVID and everything going on with the schedule and games being canceled, and we have these pickup games that we're rearranging the schedule or just picking someone up totally off the schedule in other conferences other than the SEC. Will the committee kind of take that into consideration a little bit?
Oh, sure. I mean, it certainly factors in, but, ultimately the schedule you play is the schedule you play. And that is what you're going to be judged on. Just like you notice that the two highest ranked Pac-12 teams were around 15 and 16 because they've only played like 3 games, and the 3 games they played are teams that are not very good. The committee's going to take it all into account, but at the end of the day, they're going to pick 4 teams, and people are not going to be happy because their team didn't get in. But the committee will take everything into consideration.
Staying in the SEC and talking about something off the wall, when I got an alert this morning on my phone that we might have the first female football player in the SEC with a kicker at Vanderbilt this week. What have you heard about that?
I just read what you've read, and it's interesting. We've had female kickers before in other parts of college football who've been able to make the team and contribute. I think Duke had one several years ago, maybe more than a dozen years ago before David Cutcliffe got there. So there's some very talented young ladies that are playing soccer, particularly at this level of college. And if they can help you make a field goal, let's go for it.
Well, let's talk about a game that surprised a lot of people in the Magnolia State last weekend. What did you think about Mississippi State holding and hanging with Georgia in Athens? Were you surprised by that?
I was surprised, Stephen, that it wasn't. It was 7 points. I thought it would be double digits. Yes. But you have to understand, when you play Mississippi State, the game plan going around the SEC is pretty simple. You rush 3 and you drop 8, and you let them catch everything they want to catch in front of you. And what happens is you pile up a bunch of big numbers. You know that, and the hope is when you do that, when you play it that way, you'll get enough stops to allow you to win the game. To Mississippi State's credit, I thought Will Rogers played really well at quarterback, and they kept moving the chains and kept. But if you don't play Mississippi State that way, well, let's put it this way: LSU played a man-to-man in the first game of the year, and nobody has done that since. So that's why the numbers were what the numbers were. And Georgia ran its game plan the way they hoped it would. JT Daniels, as you see here, came in and for his first start, had 401 yards passing. So the game went pretty much the way I thought it would. I thought Georgia would get 1 or 2 extra stops and be able to win by double digits, but credit Mississippi State.
Tony, we know that some fans are superstitious along with players and coaches. What did you hear about the black jerseys after the game?
Not a whole lot after the game because Georgia won. If Georgia had not won, then I'm sure I would have heard a whole lot. The black jerseys have sort of a mixed history. 2007, they charted them out for the first time against Auburn, and my daughter was a student at Georgia then, and she was in there and said it was the loudest she'd ever heard it. But then they came back and played Alabama and wore the black jerseys and got embarrassed. So there's a mixed history there. My feeling is if the players want to wear it, then do it once a year for the players because the game's for them.
Well, Tony, what matchups this weekend intrigue you the most?
Well, I obviously the Iron Bowl is always intriguing. I mean, it's just because Alabama's favored by 25 points or something like that, and Coach Saban won't be there, so that we'll see if that ends up being a factor. Maybe Auburn plays well and it's closer than the experts think. I'm always interested in the Egg Bowl because the Egg Bowl is just one of the most intense, nastiest rivalries in all of college football. And I'm anxious to see with both new coaches, Ole Miss is playing really well right now offensively. So what does Mississippi State do to try to counter that? I think that will be a fascinating game. Texas A&M and LSU. I mean, that's a game that Texas A&M should win easily. I just got a feeling that Texas A&M, that LSU will play that game tough. Right. So it's good. It's an interesting weekend in college football, but those are the three games I'm really looking at.
Tony, are you a big fan of rivalry games being played on Thanksgiving? I know personally, being a Mississippi State grad, absolutely love the Egg Bowl on Thursday night. But I was a little disappointed when they moved the game off Thursday night due to COVID this year, which I laughed at. I was like, well, if we're still playing it on Saturday, why can't we play it on Thursday? But right. Are you a fan of games being played on Thursday on Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's fun. I've been to a number of Georgia Tech games that have been played on Thanksgiving. And it's a lot of fun. I saw a great game long time ago before you guys were born, between 71 game between Georgia and Georgia Tech at Grant Field. I went to that game in person. That was awesome. So yeah, it's fun to play in a non-traditional day. It's no problem with that at all.
You know, with the Egg Bowl, who do you predict to take the first pot shot? Would it be Lane or will it be the Pirate taking a jab?
Well, I would say that Lane's on a roll here, flying clipboards and all that stuff. So I'm sure he will zip it out there. I just like the way they're playing offensively. Yeah. We all remember the episode with Elijah Moore in last year's Egg Bowl that essentially cost Ole Miss a chance to win that game. And now he's come back this year, and he is the leading receiver by yards per game in college football. So I'm sure he will want to get a certain amount of redemption in that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's go to a controversial topic. Last weekend in the Arkansas LSU game, what did you think about the bad calls in that football game?
Well, I think everybody, the targeting call is the one that people talk about the most. And it was really, really a close call. Now, people are they have to understand that the rules does not, helmet-to-helmet contact is a foul, but there are other ways for you to foul in that situation. And that was a really, really close call. When I looked at it, I would not have been surprised had they reversed that call. It was close. And it was a tough call at a tough time in the game. But I try to let people understand when it comes to targeting guys, there is really no point in complaining about it because it's not going to change. The officials have been told, if you have any doubt, you call it. And then if you miss it, then clean it up on replay. The officials have also been told, if you don't call it, then we're going to get somebody else who will call it. So yes. I've said this many, many times in many, many different forums. The targeting rule is not going to go away, so you just better learn to live with it.
Yes.
Tony, I know we talked about this earlier in the year about officials and being accountable. You know, an 18-year-old kid can go out there and throw an interception on the goal line, and he's accountable at the press conference afterwards. Coaches are accountable for the play calls they make. Will we ever see a day where officials will be held accountable and hold press conferences after the game?
No, I don't think so. The officials are held accountable. They're graded for every game. I certainly know situations where guys have been they would sit them down for a game or two. I know situations where guys who didn't grade out well are not asked back. It's just not done. It's not done in a public forum, and there's a lot of reasons that is, not the least of which is security issues that you've got to be aware of. So should officials be held accountable? Absolutely, and they are. But should they be held accountable in press conferences and people like that? No, that's not going to happen.
A fun question. Arkansas fans, we had this question yesterday on the show. You know, Arkansas fans felt like they got snubbed at the beginning of the season of catching Georgia and Florida on the schedule. And then, you know, we know what happened in the Auburn game in Arkansas. That didn't go against, that went against them. And then the Ole Miss game on the kickoff, that went against them as well. And then this happened this past weekend. Does Arkansas fans, do they have the right to have a little bit of beef and feel like they're being mistreated by the SEC?
If they feel they're being mistreated by the SEC, as the late, great Mike Slive commissioner used to say, the First Amendment is alive and well in the Southeastern Conference. And so I think if people feel that way, they should complain. And my goodness, they have more outlets to do that than ever before. And so, that's what it's there for.
Absolutely correct.
And my final question for you, because you would know, because obviously you're Mr. College Football. What are your thoughts on the job status of Jim Harbaugh up there in Ann Arbor?
Jim Harbaugh in Michigan looked like a bad marriage where both sides need some relief. They're just not a very good football team. They don't play. And I can't remember who said it the other night. I wish I could remember, but it was the absolute truth. It appears that Michigan does not do anything well, and that's exactly their football team doesn't do much of anything well. Can Harbaugh get it turned around? I simply do not know. Until he does, I haven't talked a whole lot about him, but there's a real issue, and they got a game with Penn State this weekend, and Penn State's in worse shape than they are. So
yes,
0-6.
Wow.
Do you feel like that Michigan will make a move, or do you think that that's Jim Harbaugh's decision?
I think ultimately Jim Harbaugh will walk away. I don't see a whole lot of coaching changes this season. I think the Will Muschamp thing was an exception rather than the rule, because I just think, given where we are getting through this pandemic and the fact that nobody's got any money to pay big buyouts right now, I don't think you'll see very many changes. But Jim Harbaugh, I could see Jim Harbaugh walking away. I really could.
Tony, what have you heard from the South Carolina job opening? What names are being thrown around? I know I've heard Shane Beamer. Everyone's talking about Hugh Freeze, of course. What are some other names that are getting some serious traction there?
Well, those two guys have gotten a great deal of traction. So is Billy Napier of Louisiana, Lafayette. He's had a great year. They opened the season, you remember, going to Iowa State and went in there. And he's done a great job offensively. So that's a name that you hear a lot. I've heard mixed bag on Hugh Freeze. There are people who absolutely positive 1,000% want to go that way. And there's a bunch of people who don't want to go that way because of the baggage that Hugh Freeze has. So it's going to be an interesting decision. I'm telling you, South Carolina's facilities are as good as I've seen. I toured them 2 years ago, and their indoor practice facility and their new $50 million football operations facility are just first rate. So everything is there to be successful. The only problem is you play in the same division with Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee, and last I checked, they're still giving scholarships too.
Yeah. My last question for you, Tony, is with it being Thanksgiving and good old-fashioned hate, what's a Larry Munson story you can share with us? And I know we're a family-friendly show, so that might limit you. But what's a good Munson story you can share with us this Thanksgiving?
You are limited as to what you can do on Larry. That's for sure. I did a book with him, and there were two versions of the book. There was the one I printed and the version I didn't print, which was much better, by the way. The thing about Munson is when we were doing the book together, we had our last interview scheduled, and Georgia was getting ready. Georgia was going to, I think it was 2011, Georgia was going to open the season at Oklahoma State. And I walked in at the end of our time together. I didn't even knock on the door anymore. I just walked in, and he said, "Don't knock on the damn door. Just come on in." So I walked in, and Larry didn't say hello. He didn't say, "How you doing?" He just looked at me and said, "Do you know that we're going to Oklahoma State? Where is Oklahoma State? How do you get there? If you get there, how do you get back? You do realize it's going to be 9,000 degrees there, don't you?" And I just said, what a great guy.
Tony,
a great guy. I miss him a whole lot.
Please tell me that you're going to write the book that you didn't write and release it, whether it be next year or after you long pass or whatever.
No, I can't do that. That book can't come out till I'm gone, and a lot of people mentioned in that book are gone. So
yes. Well, can you also tell us one quick story about the famous Jack Crystal at Mississippi State?
I did a book, and in the book, I did a chapter on Southern Voices, and Jack Crystal was one of them. And Jack Crystal tells the story about when he got the job. The Mississippi State athletic director just told him, Just get the damn score right and don't give us any of this colorful BS. And of course, Jack Crystal didn't listen to that. He went and did the way he wanted to for 53 years and had his signature phrase. This is wrapped up in maroon and white. And that's when you know the game was over.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And we hope that you have a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving. And before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug or tell people how they can find you?
Well, all the stuff that I write is on TMG College Sports, and that's under the Sports Illustrated umbrella. So it's on si.com/TMG, si.com/TMG. Me and my business partners and friends, we're all old newspaper guys and write about what we want to write about, which is what you get to do when you've been in it this long. So,
Yes.
But anybody wants to check out what myself and my partners are doing, it's si.com/TMG.
Thank you so much, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
All right, guys, take care. Happy
Tony, it's
Thanksgiving.
always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, man, that was pretty awesome. The Mr. College Football himself.
Yeah, I had a tickle in the back of my throat. I was getting ready to cough. I had to hit my mute button over here on my mic several times, my cough button. I didn't want to. You can't cough in Mr. College Football's face.
I know. So are you okay, though?
Hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm fine, man. I'm just sinus medicine and a little dry. So,
Yeah,
I'll be drinking water all through this show.
I got you. All right, man. Well, I tell you what we're going to do. We actually are going to wait.
There it is. Sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, did I hit the mute button? Did you hear me cough?
No, I heard you cough that time. All right, we're going to start with the picks, and then we're going to be joined by Cole Cubelic here in just a little bit. So,
The hardest working man in the SEC, Cole Cubelic.
yes. By the way, what were your official and initial reaction to the 4-team playoff and the rankings that were put out last night?
A little shocked that Clemson was ranked as high
Yes.
as they were. Thought they would be a spot lower. It's clear that the playoff committee loves Clemson, and that's okay. The playoff committee can love anybody they want to. But it's obvious, very clear that they absolutely adore Clemson.
Right.
Clemson's a great program. It's a great football team. And I like Dabo. I know some people don't. You know, the quick side thing, Stephen, I saw the funniest tweet that said that Dabo looks like a guy that takes church softball too seriously. I was like, he absolutely looks like that guy. But no, Clemson and Dabo, that was the only shocker, is being ranked that high. And I know you called me afterwards. I was a little shocked that some of the teams were ranked as low as they were of having good seasons. I was shocked that Georgia was as high as they were. That really kind of took me back because if I'm not mistaken, Georgia was like 9 or 10. Is that correct?
9.
9. Yeah. So that really shocked me when I heard that a 2-loss Georgia team was ranked as high as they were because they just didn't look that good. I don't think we'll see this, but it's going to be very fun to see if you want to see just SEC fans lose their mind. The craziest thing that can happen is Florida beat Bama in the SEC championship because then Florida had beaten Bama, Bama had beaten A&M had beaten Florida, and they're all one-loss teams. They all beat each other, and it will just get nasty how the committee will pick. But I'm not putting any stock in that. I'm not making a wager on that SEC championship game. So I think we'll be all right. And heaven forbid, we've seen A&M lay an egg time to time under Jimbo Fisher. I will not be shocked if I don't think LSU can do it. But, what if a very hot Ole Miss team gets a hold of A&M and, A&M have some guys out on defense due to COVID.
Yes.
Or even some guys out on offense. And so there's a lot of craziness that can still happen in college football. And we always see it. Everyone wants to complain when the first playoff rankings come out. It will eventually work itself out. It always does. It worked itself out during the BCS era, except for 1 year. And so we're going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to work itself out. There's going to be a one-loss team that's going to be crying at the end like, we should have been in. We should have been in. Well, you shouldn't have lost, and you would have been in. So
True.
Take responsibility. Don't lose. Problem solved.
All right. Well, on that note, we are going to start the picks, and we actually have a couple of games on Thursday, but none of them are worth picking because they're losing teams. So we're going to start on Black Friday with a pretty good little matchup in the Big 12 between number 13 Iowa State at number 17, the Longhorns of Texas.
Let me get a quick timeout. Let me get a 20-second timeout. You see this question that Anthony asked us?
No.
Can you pull that question up? It was the most recent comment.
Yeah, give me just a second, man.
Anthony, I'm going to give you props. You and Tom. Hey, it's the club mix. What did Tom Petty sing? Free falling? Free balling.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing shorts at all. Yeah, I'm actually wearing my cargo shorts. Model for you later on. Gift to you. So that question just kind of caught me off guard. I'm like, whoa, I got to call timeout on that one. You Missouri guys, MIZ.
ZOU. All right, so back
now I'm ready. Now I'm ready.
I got you. All right, so now getting back to the college football, what are your thoughts on this, Texas team versus Iowa State? Because, I'm tempted to go with Iowa State here, but with the way that the Big 12 protected Texas against Oklahoma State, I just honestly can't do it. I'm going with the Longhorns of Texas in this one.
Nothing's going to surprise me. I think Iowa State's a better team.
Yeah.
But you said something, and I agree with you, Stephen. I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of guy. But Texas has been long protected by the Big 12. Everybody knows it. There was that great press conference with Mangione at Kansas way back when. He said, I'm going to get fined for this, but I'm going to get my money's worth. And Texas was protected that game.
Yeah.
Texas has been protected forever. Texas ruined the Southwest Conference. They've ruined the Big 12. They're ruining just about every game they play in. They ruin. So
right.
I'm going to be pulling for the Cyclones. I'm going to be pulling for Iowa State. But yeah, I think Texas has that extra. You're playing some extra guys on the field. They're not dressed in burnt orange, but they're dressed in zebra stripes, and they're playing for Texas.
That game is Friday at 11 a.m. on ABC, and Texas is a 1-point favorite, and the Football Power Index on ESPN.com gives them a 72% chance to win.
Stephen, during the offseason, we should break down that power index. How did they come up with their numbers?
Yeah.
We should do a story on that.
Yep. All right. Next up is going to be a rivalry game that has really taken off the last few years since Nebraska has joined the Big Ten now. It is Nebraska 1-3 at number 24 Iowa. And this game is going to be at 12 p.m. on Friday on Fox. Iowa is a 13.5-point favorite, and Iowa is a 86% chance to win, according to the Football Power Index.
Wow, the black shirt defense in Nebraska playing on Black Friday, huh?
And by the way, I got to give some love to the fat guy touchdown there.
Oh, yeah, big man touchdowns are always the best. Scoop and score, baby.
But I will say this, though, an athletic fat guy touchdown.
Yes, I believe Cole – in our interview, talks about our athletic ability. I can't wait for our viewers to see that. He doesn't have much confidence in our rushing abilities.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's going to be fun to see this game on. Anytime you get college football drug out over a holiday weekend, it's always fun. Thanksgiving is my absolute favorite holiday. Has been for years.
Right.
Absolutely love Thanksgiving because there's none of the pressure of Christmas, and yet everyone's just getting together to eat and watch football and have a good time. So We got games on Thursday. We got games on Black Friday. Of course, we got games on Saturday. Thanks to the pack, we now have pack
No,
after church.
no, it got moved back to Saturday.
Oh, no pack after church. We're going pack after dark.
Yep.
Wow, I was kind of looking for pack after church, but
You got NFL on Sunday.
yeah, not the same. Same.
Right.
No, so with that, we got some great rivalry games. I'd like to see Nebraska rally and do something, but I'm a little bit of a fan of Iowa. If you haven't run into Iowa fans, they're jerks. I know a lot of people don't know that. They're very boisterous. They're out there. They are. Ran into a couple of Iowa fans at a bowl game a couple of years ago. They're a little over the top, and I'm like, dude, you're Iowa.
Yeah.
But but Iowa fans love football, and that's a good program and very well coached, very well disciplined. Iowa's had some problems off the field. It's 2020. I'm not shocked if anyone wins this game, but if I had to guess, I'd put that guess on Iowa.
I'm going with Iowa as well. I just don't think that Nebraska can do anything with that. All right, next up is going to be a pretty interesting game. It is going to be a team that actually just for 1 year is in the ACC, and they're actually traveling to North Carolina to take on the Tar Heels. And usually this would be a game that Notre Dame might actually trip up, but they're just way too talented, in my opinion. I'm going with Notre Dame Fighting Irish in this one. It is number 2 Notre Dame at number 19 North Carolina.
Hey, Mac Brown's made a living upsetting teams in this kind of situation. Don't be shocked if North Carolina comes out and jumps out ahead. I won't be shocked if North Carolina wins this game, but I do feel like the Irish have enough talent to make things happen, and they'll pull this game off. But again, it's 2020. I'm not shocked with anything now. I won't be shocked if the Tar Heels upset the Fighting Irish, but I do like Notre Dame, and I've never really been a much of a Notre Dame fan, but I'm kind of pulling for Notre Dame to win the ACC this year. I think it'll be a fun trivia question one day, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. Who won the ACC in 2020? Because no one's going to guess Notre Dame, because this is a 1 year thing for them.
Yep. That game is Friday, 2:30 ABC. Notre Dame is a 5-point favorite, and the Football Power Index gives Notre Dame a 71% chance to win that game.
Hey, David, here's a fun question. Hasn't Notre Dame, haven't they won the green jerseys on Thanksgiving the past couple of years? For some reason, I think that I will look that up after the show, but
right.
For some reason, I think they always wear the green jerseys on Thanksgiving. Yeah. I don't know why.
All right, now we're going to another good rivalry game that a lot of people remember. That a lot of people remember, the Band on the Field game. This is going to be two winless programs looking for the first win in 2020. It is Stanford 0-2 at 0-2 California.
Yeah, do you know what they call this game?
Nope.
The big game.
Yes.
The big game. You talked about the Stanford Cal game. This is the heartbreaking thing. Stanford was a joke for ages, and John Elway goes to Stanford. And if that play does not happen, if Cal does not return that touchdown, John Elway goes to a bowl game for the first and only time in his career. And since that play happened, they lost the game. They would have been 6-5, I believe. And since it happened, they went 5-6, and he didn't get to go to a bowl game. And he said that is his biggest upset thing that he takes from that game. The biggest regret he had is that he never got to play in a bowl game in college. So a little fun fact, a little side note from the big game. You know what, Stephen? It's the Pac. It's two schools. It's ugly. I don't care. Who wins this game. I do know this, that Stanford always wants to hold it over. Those campuses are very close together. Stanford being the great institution that it is, and then Cal, known as the #1 rated public university in America as far as academics. So, yeah, who do you want to go with? Do you want to go with the number one academic nerds of the private school, the number one academic nerds of the private public school? Public or private, you get to pick. So I don't care. I'll throw one up. In the memory of John Elway, although he's still with us, I'll go with Stanford.
I'm going California in this matchup.
Yeah,
I just think Stanford's just way. I mean, is it time to put their coach on the hot seat now?
I was thinking about that this morning, Stephen. Yeah, Stanford was a very powerful program.
Yes,
under Harbaugh, and they kept it at a high level after Harbaugh left, but it's been sinking over the past year. It's been coming down. So Stanford's got plenty of money to make a change if they want to. I don't think they will this year. I think a lot of schools they're going cheap. They're going skimp. And they're going to skimp out on the buyout. And so they'll say, hey, we'll just deal with it for one more year. And let's face it, no one out west watches football that much anyway. They don't care. There's not going to be that much craziness going on. I mean, for a bad example, imagine Tennessee keeping Jeremy Pruitt for 2 more years. That's what Stanford's doing right now.
Yeah.
So
that game is Friday at 3 p.m. on Fox. Cal is a 1.5-point favorite, but the Football Power Index likes Stanford. So I'm actually going against the Football Power Index. I'm going California.
I still don't care.
Well, I think you will care about this game because I believe it was Dan Mullen's first or second year in Gainesville. They actually lost to this team, breaking the streak. And now Kentucky, and hold your eyes, Heath, because this highlight is against your Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yeah, it happens. I didn't know this. I think the lowest a Leach team ever scored in a game was 20 points until this season. And then State scored 14 a couple of times, and then they scored 2 points.
Against Kentucky.
And I don't think State's been shut out yet. Were they shut out of Alabama?
Alabama.
Yeah, they were shut out. I didn't know if they scored a cheap touchdown late or not. So, yeah, Mike Leach had always scored at least 20 points or more in every game for 20 years.
Except this one.
And then this year he comes in and puts up a couple of 14s, a 7, a 2, and a 0. Yikes.
And then almost beats Georgia.
And then almost beats Georgia on the road with a true freshman quarterback. And we mentioned that on the show the other day. 14 underclassmen. 6 seniors, 2 juniors, 14 underclassmen were your starters for that game with multiple walk-ons. That's just insane. That's insane.
Kentucky is 3-5 on the road at number 6 Florida. This is an 11 a.m. on Saturday. ESPN Florida is a 23.5-point favorite, and the Football Power Index gives Florida a 90% chance to win. I'm going with all of that. I'm going Gators, just way too much for Kentucky.
Why is it 90% and not 99.9%?
I know.
I mean, that's just crazy. If Florida gets over 10 points, this game's over.
Yes.
I mean, Florida's going to do that in at least the first 3 drives, if not the first 2. Yeah, this is over. Yeah, Florida all day. Florida big. Florida a lot.
I agree with that. All right, next up is a game that you might actually not care about again, but we're picking it because there are 2 really good football teams. It is the Maryland Terrapins that did not play last weekend due to COVID, going on the road to take on a team that just recently got upset by Ohio State at number 12 Indiana hosting Maryland. This game is going to be 11 a.m. on ESPN2. And Indiana is a 12-point favorite, and the Football Power Index gives Indiana a 88% chance to win this game. I'm actually going with the Fighting Tallulah Tungavailoa and the Maryland Terrapins.
Dude, what? Are you really?
Yes,
I didn't see that one coming, Steven.
because
Wow.
I feel like Ohio State will make Indiana lose 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, yeah, that's actually smart thinking. Um, the SEC shorts video this past week, we talked about that on the phone, I believe yesterday. That was absolutely hilarious if you didn't see it, with Indiana and crying about missing the playoff. We were all pulling for Indiana. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to pull for the Hoosiers. I don't think the Hoosiers can get into the playoff now. I just don't think it's possible. But let's pull for the Hoosiers to get into a New Year's Six bowl. So I'm going to Indiana, man. I'm riding the Hoosiers all season.
So you're all right. And like I said, I'm going with Minnesota or Maryland. I'm sorry, in that one.
And
All right.
Maryland knows that they got the ugliest uniforms ever. Do you think they know?
Yeah, I don't know about that. All right. Next up is going to be, for me, a coin flip football game. It is going to be 0-5 Penn State at a 2-win Michigan team in Ann Arbor. And let me tell you something, man. If Jim Harbaugh finds a way to lose to this bad Penn State team, they might actually make a move here pretty quick.
I still don't think Michigan's going to make a move. But I will say, Penn State, they were ranked in the top 10. I think they were 6th to start the season.
6th, yep.
So, man, you're just wondering when that sleeping giant's going to wake up. Is Penn State going to be like a team like Tennessee was last year? They're going to just fall flat on their face for the first half of the schedule, and the second half they're going to be on fire.
Right.
Blow everybody out. I think Penn State has the chance to be that team, but gosh, you talk about a coin flip. This is two ugly girls fighting in a pillow fight.
Yes.
This is ugly. This is bad ugly. You know what? I like James Franklin, but Senior Khaki Pants needs a break. I'm hoping that Senior Khaki Pants gets a victory. I have no idea, Steven. This is – how can you pick against two just absolutely horrible teams right now? So I'm going to go with the team that's done it this year. I'm going to go with Michigan. They've at least won. Penn State hasn't. So let's go with the Wolverines.
Yes, and a couple of weeks ago, Penn State played Nebraska, and both teams were horrible, and it turned out to be a great, great football game, and I bet you with both of these teams being so bad, it will be another barn burner this weekend. And last weekend, Rutgers versus Michigan, 2 bad teams again, went into 3 overtimes. So I feel like that this game will be a great, great game on Saturday.
Steven, you've got to be the greatest college football fan alive. Why hasn't Dr. Pepper called you to do commercials?
I have no clue.
We got to work on that.
Yes, but like I said, man, I haven't picked yet, but I'm actually going with Michigan in this game. I really can't put any stock into Penn State right now.
Yeah, Senior Khaki Pants. Let's ride him through Thanksgiving, right?
Yes, but man, like I said, it's going to be a very, very bad look if they were to drop to Michigan State and Penn State as bad as those 2 football teams are this year.
Yeah.
That would be really bad. All right, next up, we talked about this a little bit with our guest, Mr. Tony Barnhart, and there was an actual breaking news this morning that came out about this game. Would you like to fill everybody in on that?
Are you talking about the Vanderbilt game?
Yes.
Yeah. The first female kicker could be playing in the SEC this week. First female football player.
Yes.
Could be playing in the SEC this weekend. So, Tony mentioned that there was a girl kicker at Duke. I remember Jacksonville State had a girl kicker, a female kicker, but she did not play in the game against the homecoming game against Mississippi State years ago. So there's been multiple girls that have made rosters, but they didn't get to play in the SEC. So Vanderbilt might finally break that threshold. I think it's happened in every conference except the SEC. I know Colorado had a female kicker a few years back, early 2000s. So, I think the SEC is the only school that hasn't, had that threshold broken. Maybe the Big Ten, but I'm pretty sure they have. But yeah, and Stephen, how great would it be if this game gets close, which I'm not expecting,
Right.
but this game gets close, and who wins it? A female kicker for Vanderbilt gets them their first win in 2020.
Yes.
I mean, that's a Disney movie. I mean, that's going to be crazy.
30 for 30, definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm not putting any stock in that. MIZ.
ZOU. I'm going with Missouri doing it, but this game is an 11 a.m. kickoff on the SEC network. Missouri is a 15.5-point favorite, and Missouri has a 88% chance to win this game based off of the Football Power Index, but I am going with MIZ.
Get ZOU. I wonder that 88. I'm being a nerd here, making my Back to the Future jokes. When this baby hits 88, you're going to see some serious. Next game.
Yep. All right, man. Next up is going to be a really, really good game, an interesting game now that Nick Saban will not be there because of the COVID issues. And if you will remember when Lane Kiffin, he left for Florida Atlantic before the national championship game, Steve Sarkisian came in, and Alabama's offense during that game was really horrible on third downs. And, I'm wondering if it's going to be a similar situation this weekend, but I'm actually going with Roll Tide in this one just simply because of Bo Nix's performance usually on the road. If this game was in Jordan-Hare, they might actually have a little bit of luck, but I'm actually going with Alabama Roll Tide in this one.
Yeah, I don't think Auburn's going to put up much of a fight. Bo Nix is just a mix of a quarterback. We don't know what we're going to get. I know his numbers are always better when he's at home. Cole, our guest fixing to come up, he shared that with us the first time he came on the show.
Right.
But, that Bama offense is just kind of booming. I will say this. The running back situation at Alabama is a little bit delicate right now. Trey Sanders is out now for the season with that hip injury and a car accident.
Right.
Now you got Jace McClellan, which Cole will talk about here shortly. And he'll also talk about Stephen and I's running ability, our rushing ability. But, I really like Alabama in this game. I think this is going to be a boring game. I hate that because the Iron Bowl is such a fun game. And Gus Malzahn, props to Gus. Gus makes this game fun the past few years. He's made it absolutely fun and has given us some phenomenal memories to all of college football fans. I don't think anyone will ever forget the kick six. But, it will be a great testament to Gus Malzahn and Auburn. But, Stephen, I think this is the game where things start turning south for Auburn for the season. I know that's a little bit of a shocker that I'm playing that card. I think that this game, it gets ugly, and I think that Auburn might limp to the very end of the season. I think they might only have one win on the schedule left this year. And what if they go winless from here on out? This could get ugly for Gus. So, with that being said, I think Bama's going to win this game. I think they're going to win this game by multiple touchdowns. I would not be shocked if Bama wins this game by more than 20 points.
They are a 24.5-point favorite, and Auburn coming up has Alabama, Texas A&M, Mississippi State. Mississippi State, you don't know what team you're going to get. Was it the one versus Kentucky and Arkansas, or was it the one that came out and knocked off Georgia, or almost knocked off Georgia?
Yeah. We'll know more about Mississippi State this weekend, but
yes,
they're improving, but they're not good enough to beat Auburn right now. But I think
I would say this, Heath, if they played like they did against Georgia, I think they actually have a shot to knock off Auburn.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, Stephen. Auburn's in this category. Mississippi State's definitely in this category. Most of the SEC teams are in this category, not all, but most. You're a couple of contact traces away from having a really bad team.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy. I can't remember who wrote the story this week, but it's actually better to get the virus than contract tracing, than your roommate or someone in your position group to get the virus. Because contact tracing, you have to sit out now, which is the
Right.
craziest thing. That's that. We don't know what's going to happen. And like I said, I can't remember the game we talked about here just a few minutes ago, but what if Auburn gets a couple of guys, heaven forbid, Bo Nix gets out with COVID.
The running back.
Yeah, or better yet, the wide receiving room comes down
Yes.
with. I mean, now
Big
you've got a problem. You got a huge problem. So that's the craziness of 2020 this year, that we really don't know. The team could be getting better, but heaven forbid, contact tracing, we all got to go sit out now. So, it's just crazy of what's happening in 2020. But as far as the Iron Bowl, I wish we could get some craziness. I'll be tickled to death if Auburn creates craziness in this game. I'm just not expecting any craziness.
My last word for about this game is going to be Roll Tide. All right. Next up is going to be a game that you might actually say boring, but I really feel like that this is where USC finally stubs its toe when they host a red-hot Colorado football team, 2-0 at number 18 USC. Also, or at 3-0, 2:30 ABC. USC is a 12.5-point favorite, and USC has an 81% chance to win this game. I'm going Colorado State, the Buffaloes, in the upset.
Wow, look at you. I'm not going there. I know if you get it right, you'll play it back on the show next week. But, I like USC.
That's okay, though, right?
Yeah, it's fine. That's absolutely fine. I like USC. I really hope that I'd like to see the Pac start being a powerhouse on the national scene again. I think that's just good for college football. To see a Pac team, a Big 12 team, a Big 10 team, an SEC team, and an ACC team, compete, have at least one undefeated team out of each of those. That would make a phenomenal year of college football and the college football playoffs and trying to figure that thing out. And that would also be the best thing that could happen for college football, because they will eventually move it out to 8 teams. When they said the 4-team college football playoff, that this is just the first step. We might move this out to 8 teams. Well, they haven't done that yet.
Right.
And I'm not being a homer and hating on, the playoff, but usually the 5th-ranked team has no business playing for the national championship. You've usually got at least a loss in there. And I think that if you get to 8 teams, then now you're going to have a 2-loss team getting in there.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see a 2-loss team just get hot at the end of the season and win it. I mean, that defeats the purpose.
Right.
Of so many great college football teams and things.
It was kind of like, it'd be like in the NFL, I do believe, and I'm not up to speed on my NFL like I should be, but you remember the year that the Patriots were undefeated and got to the Super Bowl, and then they faced a team that was 500 in the Giants that made the playoffs and ran all the way and won the Super Bowl. And It's just like, come on, man.
Yeah, and I remember that year with Eli Manning and the Giants.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go back and look at those playoff games, the Giants were a better team all through the playoffs.
Not during the season.
Yeah, but during the season, the Giants were terrible.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say terrible, but they were kind of like Kentucky. You didn't know what you were going to get.
Right.
They were going to be hit or miss. They were Jekyll and Hyde.
And by the way, when they were the wild card, they had every game on the road, and they won every game on the road to get to the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. So.
Yeah. So, it made for a good Super Bowl, made for a good story. I think that game easily put Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame one day.
Yes,
easily. I think there's a crazy stat, and it's a great stat, especially if you're an Ole Miss fan or Eli Manning fan. Every quarterback that's won 2 Super Bowls, every single one of them are in the Hall of Fame. And so people are like, well, I don't think Eli should get in. He threw too many interceptions. Well, he won 2 Super Bowls, so get over it. He's in. But getting back to this game, I'm kind of pulling for USC.
Like I said, I like the Buffaloes. All right, next up is going to be now, I've got to talk a little bit of smack here because, everybody is talking about Cincinnati undefeated. Everybody's talking about BYU undefeated. Everybody was talking about Liberty undefeated. Everybody's talking about Coastal Carolina undefeated. There is one team that is still undefeated that nobody is giving any love to, and they are out west, and they are playing at Boise this weekend. The San Jose State. They are currently 4-0 at Boise State, 4-1. Now, did you ever think that a San Jose State football team would be able to get the primetime spot at 3 o'clock on the Fox Sports Network, to play a game? That is just how incredible 2020 has been. I'm actually going with the San Jose State beating Boise State on the blue.
Wow, on the Smurf turf, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm rolling with San Jose State, buddy.
Wow. The other thing I know about San Jose State, well, there's actually a lot of things I know about San Jose State, but one of the things I always love is for several years, it was voted the #1 party school in America. So, you know what? Let's keep the party going. Let's go with San Jose State.
And, they're not getting any love, and they're in the Mountain West. If they pull off,
and they're not going to get any.
But if they pull off this win, they might actually start making a little bit of noise.
I hope so. Anytime college football can have an underdog story that we can cheer for, let's do it. So,
yes.
Yeah, I know we talked about the Chanticleers last week with Coastal Carolina, but the Spartans, the Chanticleers, the Hoosiers, although the Hoosiers got their loss last week. These stories are fun. Let's pull for the little guy and the underdog.
All right, let's go now to a really, really good matchup that the last time LSU invaded College Station.
Oh, man.
It went into 7 overtimes, and Texas A&M was able to knock off LSU. This time, LSU comes in limping a little bit at 3-3, and Texas A&M is now on the outside looking in at number 5 as they host LSU, and it would be really bad for them to be ranked 5th in the nation and then drop this game to LSU. They have not played in a long time. I'm actually going with the Aggies Gig 'em over LSU.
Not a shocker. That game 2 years ago that went 7 overtimes, I can't remember what I did that day, but I remember I wanted to watch that game all day. And I was checking the score from my phone. And then I came in and it was like 6-7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was like, man, it looks like this was a good game, and I missed the whole thing. And I sat down, and good Lord, I sat there till 1:30. How long? I can't remember how long it was. I know it was late. I know I'd been traveling that day, and I knew I was tired, but I was like, I'm not going to bed. I'm watching this thing.
Yes.
That was crazy. We're not going to get that craziness again. I think LSU is improving. I think LSU is getting better. And, they're very young. We knew that coming into the season. So LSU, they're fighting off the youngness. They're getting some experience. They're getting snaps. They're getting reps. Dealing with COVID. Of course, they're dealing with the off-the-field issues as well. LSU's getting better. LSU is going to beat somebody before the season's out. They are. They're going to beat somebody. Who I have no idea, but it's not going to be A&M.
No.
Although we know that A&M is known to lay an egg. We talked about this.
Yeah.
A&M, Jimbo Fisher, his teams always lay an egg. I don't think he's going to lay an egg here on Thanksgiving.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I like, howdy, giggle, whoop.
Yep, gig 'em. All right, next up is going to be a game that actually South Carolina upset this football team last year in Athens. Now they return up to Columbia. It is number 9 Georgia, 5-2 at South Carolina that is coming off the loss to Missouri. Let's see. Georgia is a 21.5-point favorite. The Football Power Index gives Georgia an 89% chance to win. Sick 'em dogs. Hoo, 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 hoo. Dogs big.
Stephen, help me think real quick. The 2 wins was Auburn and Vanderbilt. Is that South Carolina's 2 wins?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's an ugly loss for Auburn. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I don't know why this game is not more than 89% on the index.
Right.
Are you ready for it, Stephen? Are you ready?
Yes.
Everyone ready? If South Carolina doesn't win the coin toss, they're not going to win anything all day. I know Bobo's coming back and this and that, and he's trying to coach his way into a job. Stop. Just stop. Georgia, JT Daniels looked great last week. I expect JT Daniels. He may not look as good, but I think he's going to look all right. And if Ole Miss could score at will on that South Carolina defense, I think Georgia and JT Daniels are going to have a field day as well. You have any idea what the over/under is on this one?
I don't. No.
Man, I just like Georgia a whole lot. I'd be shocked if JT Daniels doesn't throw for at least 3 touchdowns, if not 4 or 5, maybe 6.
Going ahead and give me your best Georgia Bulldog bark.
Seek 'em. Oh, oh, oh.
All right. Next up is going to be 2 Pac-12 games before we get to the game of the week. It is going to be the first one, Arizona limping in to take on the UCLA Bruins in the Rose Bowl. This game is a primetime game on Fox. UCLA is a 10-point favorite, and the Football Power Index likes UCLA at 73% to win this game. Arizona has been so close for so long, but UCLA, I feel like, is the better team. But I'm going with the fighting Kevin Sumlins of Arizona going into UCLA and knocking them off just simply because UCLA has had horrible turnover issues at the inopportune time. I think it gets them again. I'm going with the Arizona Wildcats.
Wow. I think Arizona's going to be the mild cats. I don't have as much faith in Arizona. Bear down on that. They're in Tucson, but I got an aunt that lives in Tucson. I'll say that story for later.
Right.
But anyway, they UCLA, I don't know what's going on out there. I mean, you think Chip Kelly would start figuring some things out, but that's not necessarily happening. I like UCLA in this one. I'm not confident in UCLA. Arizona, they can put some things together. Kevin Sumlin is known to steal a victory here and there out of the blue, especially during bad seasons. I just don't see Arizona doing it. I'm not going to be shocked if they do because UCLA is not a good football team. They've got a lot of issues over there. Why is Chip Kelly not making things happen out there in Los Angeles? You have any idea?
No clue. None.
So, yeah. But Steven, here's your fun fact. Do you know the official colors that UCLA calls their uniforms?
No.
Champagne and sky blue.
Awesome, man.
So yeah, there you go. There's a little fun fact for you. Yeah, I'm gonna lean toward UCLA. I'm going with the Bruins, but yeah, I'm not gonna be shocked if Arizona pulls this out. But this is bad, ugly football.
Yep, I agree. All right, next up is going to be now this one was a makeshift game because let me explain. Let me pull up the highlights here and then let me explain real quick. It was supposed to be Utah taking on Arizona State. That was supposed to be the game this weekend. Then Washington was supposed to play Washington State. Washington State and Arizona State both have COVID issues, so both games got canceled. So Utah elected to play Washington this weekend, 9:30 on ESPN. Washington is a 7-point favorite, and Washington has a 61% chance to win this game. Utah is coming off the loss, as you see right there, to USC. Washington is coming into this game at 2-0. I'm actually going with the Washington Huskies in this game.
Yeah, this is crazy. This is the craziness of 2020. You're going to see base offense and base defense with both these teams. They didn't have enough time to prepare.
Right.
You can't really get a game plan together in that short of time and practice it. So you're going to see a lot of basic formations. You're going to see a lot of basics. The trick plays that they've been practicing all year, yeah, you might see those be pulled out, but this is going to be just kind of a snoozer of a game. I like Washington. I like the Huskies. I know we got the Vol Navy in Knoxville. We should ask Brock Heward. What do they call is it the Husky Navy? Is it the Purple Navy? What do they call the boaters that come to the Washington games? You have any idea?
I have no clue.
All right. Google machine later.
And finally, we are going to what I'm actually calling the game of the week this week. And I'm going to pull you up full screen real quick. And I want you to tell us what you think about this game.
Wow, Steven. Well, it's going to come down to the Ole Miss offensive line. This game will be determined by the offensive line of the Ole Miss Rebels. If Ole Miss cannot protect up front, Mississippi State will win this game. But I do expect the Ole Miss front to be very productive, to buy time for Matt Corral, and things are going to happen. It's so funny that we're talking about the Egg Bowl. Living in the state of Mississippi, being raised here, living here currently, this game is just, the folks you go to church with, your neighbors. It doesn't matter what community you live in, whether it be a gated community, a startup community, the hood, whatever it might be. You will see Mississippi State and Ole Miss decals on all the cars, on all the vehicles, and the flags in the flower bed and flags hanging off the houses. This is the game. I want to stress the thing that is the most true thing that I have screamed and said for years, decades about this game. The team that has the most to lose in the Egg Bowl usually does. Again, the team that has the most to lose usually does in the Egg Bowl. Who has the most to lose this year? Some would say it would be Ole Miss. The reason they would say that is because if Lane Kiffin loses this game, now the shine of everything, the excitement of the offense, hey, we're growing, we're getting better, we've pulled equal with Mississippi State, all that's gone out the window. I would say for Mississippi State, the thing that they would be losing the most is Mike Leach really the guy? Is he really going to turn this thing around for us? Do we have to wait another year of watching another, bad football? I don't know the answer, but I do know this, that the Mississippi State defense will be super aggressive against Ole Miss. I really think that they will either pick one of the two to shut down the pass or shut down the run. I think they will pick to shut down the pass of Matt Corral and make Ole Miss beat them with their feet. I really do. But it all comes down to the Ole Miss offensive line. If the Ole Miss offensive line can make room for the running backs, Ole Miss is going to win. If they can buy time for Matt Corral, they're going to win. Mississippi State has problems at safety. They have problems at covering deep, and Matt Corral can connect. Elijah Moore is a huge target. That tight end they have at Ole Miss, he's amazing. So with that being said, the Ole Miss Rebels should win this football game. Will they? I don't know.
So who are you going with, though?
Man, are you crazy? I'm picking my Bulldogs every single time.
Man, I got to go with Hotty Toddy on this one. Playing
It
at
makes
home,
sense.
huh?
It makes sense to go with Ole Miss. It does.
Playing at home, plus the embarrassment of last year with the kick, the piss, the miss.
Urination simulation?
Huh?
Urination simulation?
Yes. I really feel like that Mississippi State is going to get beat in this game. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go on ahead and bring on our very special guest for today on the Stingray Show, the guy who's actually calling this game right here, ladies and gentlemen, Cole Cubelic. Well, Heath, it's that time of the week again for us to bring on a very special guest. And we would like to bring back and welcome back to the Stingray Show a guy who was a former Auburn player. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the very talented Cole Cubelic. Cole, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Great, Stingray. Appreciate you having me back, man. Good to be with you guys.
Cole, is it still true you're the hardest working man in the SEC?
I hope so. If I'm ever not, then I got to find something else to do. So,
well, go
Cole,
ahead.
This past week, what game did you cover? Did you cover the Alabama game?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Alabama, Kentucky.
Yes, I thought that was right. And so, in your notes going into that game, what was something that caught you off guard before the game while you were researching both teams?
I mean, the first thing that caught me off guard for Kentucky was the 7 guys that they had out that were going to be heavy contributors, including Chris Rodriguez, their leading rusher, Jameer Watson, their leading tackler, a lot of depth at linebacker, tight end. Justin Higg was out, and then you had a couple guys in the secondary out. Just made it very difficult for them to really be able to go in and compete with an Alabama football team that is right now the best in the country, and I don't really think it's close. I thought they fought hard. I appreciated Mark Stoops telling me before the game, hey, man, we came to play. We're going to play. Our mindset is to play. We're not ducking anybody. But as far as on the field for Alabama, there were no real big surprises. They are what they are. Slade Bolden kind of rolled his ankle late in that game. I think that's an area that could sort of hamper their depth and maybe change who they are offensively later on. Sark told us that he wants to find more balance, that they may be a team that leans on the run game a little bit more late. I think that's probably to protect the receivers because, if you lose Smith or Mechie, you're all of a sudden a very different football team. Billingsley's a guy at tight end that I think that they feel like they can count on down the stretch, maybe provide a little bit something different. But all in all, Alabama was about exactly who we thought they were.
Well, I know you're calling the the Mississippi State versus Ole Miss game this weekend. What are some of your thoughts about going into that one as well?
It's a 3:00 kick, and I'm not anticipating leaving the stadium until about 8:15 or 8:30. So I think there's going to be a lot of points. I think there'll be a lot of yards, and I think it's going to be an entertaining game. I feel like the Mississippi State offense under Will Rogers is finally starting to look the way it's supposed to look.
Right.
The patience is there. The understanding is there. Maybe the lack of greed is there. It's beginning to look like the air raid's supposed to look. And I think that's only going to continue to improve. Defensively, they've been strong all year. I think that defensive line deserves a lot more credit than they get. If I had an all-SEC team I put out today, Marquis Spencer would be a part of that team. They've played pretty good football. You're getting the Errol Thompson that you had 2 years ago as opposed to last year, and he's been an impact guy as well. So Zach Arnett's done an amazing job with that defense. The Ole Miss offense is just ridiculous. They're littered with weapons and talent and speed. Matt Corral outside of the Arkansas game looks like a legit first-round NFL quarterback. Elijah Moore has been insane. Jerry O'Neill's the most underrated back in the SEC. Ole Miss leads the SEC in rushing. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. It's the first one with Leach and Kiffin. That in and of itself, I think, is going to make it entertaining and fun to watch. But I'm excited to be a part of it. I've never been to an Egg Bowl, never covered an Egg Bowl. So for this to be my first one, it's going to be pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Cole, well, electricians need to be on site for the scoreboard of all the lights that are going to be burned out on the scoreboard with Ole Miss and State, because I think they're just both going to score at will on each other.
Yeah, I think probably you're looking at whoever makes a mistake or two offensively late in that game, probably going to cost themselves the opportunity to get a win. They might have to turn the LED lights off there in Oxford to focus the attention on the scoreboards. I would not be surprised to see one team getting into the 70s, if not both teams getting into the 70s in this game. So that's one reason I'm kind of excited about it. I think it has a chance to be that kind of a game. And we saw it with South Carolina and Ole Miss a few weeks ago. We were there for that game, but it was a little bit different where, South Carolina was ground and pound, but it was still back and forth, and it was still a track meet. This will be obviously both teams doing a lot of damage through the air and should be very entertaining.
If you're talking to Zach Arnett, what do you think he is thinking and saying about how he's going to attack that Ole Miss defense?
I would like to know specifically in coverage what his plan is. He played some single safety against Georgia, and I don't think you can do that against Ole Miss. I think you're just asking for it if you try to do that against Ole Miss. They're too talented, and Lane Kiffin's too good of a play caller. So I'm sure we'll discuss it with him, and he'll be open and tell us kind of what he's thinking going in. You always adjust on the fly, but for me, I kind of look at what Barry Odom's done at Arkansas, and I wonder why more teams don't do that across the board. And that is not essentially play a prevent the entire time, but more 2 and 3 deep safeties and basically say, we're going to make you work. Like if I'm playing Alabama, I'm not letting you get over the top. And Najee Harris might run for 500, but at least we're making you work for it. And that gives us more opportunities for mistakes and cuts down on the explosive plays. Kind of same thing with this Ole Miss offense. Like why not just sit back and say, okay, we prove to us that you can run the ball 65 times in a game, because it's going to be there. You're going to get good looks. But you got to prove that you'll actually do it, because we don't think you will. And somebody's going to do that to some of these teams down the stretch, and I think it'll pay off for them.
Well, let's turn our attention to another rivalry game. Obviously, your alma mater, the Auburn Tigers, take on Nick Saban and #1 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. What are your thoughts on that game?
It's going to have to be a close to perfect game for Auburn to be competitive or find a way to win. I think the defensive line needs by far their best game of the season. They're going to need to be disruptive. They're going to need to create a pass rush with only 4, maybe 5, maybe 3 at times. And if Kevin Steele has to continuously add guys to the box, 1 in run support, 2 to help get pressure, that's going to put the guys in the secondary in a position that they're just not going to be able to win consistently. That Alabama offensive line is elite. Najee Harris is elite. The receivers are elite. The quarterback is elite. You got to force them into mistakes, and they have made a lot of mistakes this year. Offensively, they need Tank Bigsby. I don't really know another way to get around it. He is a difference maker, a game changer. He makes the offensive line right when they're wrong. He runs through tackles. He makes defenders who are set to make in a position to make a big play all of a sudden create a negative play for the defense, because he's just that kind of back. I think he and Seth Williams are kind of 1 and 1A, most important guys, maybe not on the Auburn offense, but on the Auburn team. And I think my opinion, not only of the Auburn offense, but the Auburn team changes drastically when one or both of those players, either or, are not in the lineup. So they need him healthy. If he's not there, he's easier to offset than Seth is, because you have Sean Shivers, you have DJ Williams, you have a mobile quarterback in Bo Nix, but you still need Tank Bigsby if you're going to find a way to be competitive in this game.
I've got one question for you, though, about your playing days. What is one of your fondest memories of playing in an Iron Bowl?
I have 2, really. The first one is 1998, the last Iron Bowl at Legion Field. Being a kid that grew up in Homewood, Alabama, I would take the Max bus down to Legion Field and not have tickets. We would just go want to be a part of the tailgating and the scene. And Legion Field to me was exactly what the Upper Deck said when I was a kid, the football capital of the South. Legion Field was my football capital. That's where Alabama's biggest games were. That's where the SEC championship games was. That's where high school playoff games were played. That's where bowl games were played. XFL, USFL, I mean, you name it, World League, that's where football lived for me. And to be able to be a part of, I had never played in a game there before until that game.
Right.
So to be able to play your first game in the Iron Bowl in Legion Field, and it be the last one that's going to be at Legion Field, it was remarkable. And something I'll never forget. We lost that game, but it was still just the memories of that will never fade. And then 2000, to be able to go to Tuscaloosa for the first time in over 100 years, my senior year, that was the first game I started that year. And for us to find a way to win that game and clinch the West, because Arkansas lost that day, to get a trip to Atlanta as a group of seniors that were picked to finish last in the West going into that season, that one was pretty cool, literally and figuratively, because I think it was about 24 degrees that day, which
Yes,
I absolutely loved it. I loved it. Yeah, it was great. It's football weather.
You know, you were talking about Alabama, and I was pulling up my notes from last week's game. The backup running back for Alabama, Jace McClellan, looks like he had a little promising game there. 10 rushes, 99 yards. Did you see anything so impressive out of Jace, or is that offensive line? Can me and Steven run behind that offensive line and get 40 yards in the shape that we're in now?
No, not you two, but I maybe could. I think Jace McClellan's got a chance to be a pretty good back. But the offensive line is good. And when he was doing his damage, I mean, you had Tommy Brown and some of the other reserves in the game anyway. So it's not like it was the first group that was still in there. But that first offensive line is big, physical. They've got nasty to them. Landon Dickerson's the tone setter at center. He gets after people and he finishes, plays to the whistle. So I think that's the separator with this Alabama team. The offensive line and Najee Harris. You know, they can bludgeon you and they can win between the tackles consistently. And Notre Dame can do that, but they can't throw the ball the way Alabama can. Clemson can throw the ball the way Alabama can, as can Florida, but they can't run it the way that Alabama can. A&M might be the closest thing to Alabama when you're talking about true balance on offense, and they're just flat out not as talented, especially at wide receiver, as Alabama is. So I think that's the separator for them down the stretch and something that people are going to have to deal with, and we're not seeing a ton of good defensive football. The defensive lines in this league are nowhere near what they were a season ago. And that's a big advantage for the Crimson Tide.
And finally, you spoke about the Aggies. Obviously, they have not played in a while. How much rust do you think they will have when they take the field this weekend?
I don't think much, Stevie, because go look at Florida. Florida had a month off, and they came out and ran Missouri and then ran Georgia and then put 63 on Arkansas. You know, Auburn had a month off, and they just beat Tennessee. And we've seen this from a couple of teams now, that they've had these big extended breaks and then they come back and they're okay. I mean, LSU looked better after they had time off. So I think as long as your coaching staff manages it the right way, and Nick Saban told us, we tried to keep it as close to game week every week as much as we could. The actual off week was what it was, but then they tried to make it as similar to a game week as they could. They practiced on Saturday. They were off on Friday, which would normally be a travel day. So if you keep that routine the same or close to the same, keep your guys in shape, get a little bit more healthy, maybe add a few things, subtract some things that aren't working, it could be beneficial for a lot of these teams. A&M's a team that I think can go out and play a very pedestrian-type game and still win by 2 scores against LSU, just because they're that balanced and they have enough talent in the right places.
Cole, I got 2 questions before we head out. Gus Malzahn, if he stumbles here at the end of the season and loses the next 2 or 3 football games, will there be a move at Auburn, or is Gus pretty safe for this year?
I think Gus is safe this year. I don't think it's an issue. The South Carolina loss is inexcusable. Georgia was a pretty good football team when they played them. Auburn wasn't as good as they are now. A&M's a great football team. Alabama's an amazing football team. So I think the reality of being in this season that we're in, the way it went down, what happened, what transpired to get here, and then the teams that you would have lost to, I don't think you realistically make that move then, no.
Okay. And going back to the Egg Bowl with Kiffin and Leach, who's going to fire the first shot, either before the game, during the game, or after the game? Leach and Kiffin, they talk about they're good friends, they're buddies and everything, but this rivalry, we've always seen the nastiness come out. Who do you think would fire the first shot, Kiffin or Leach?
I mean, if it was going to be one of them, it would be Lane, because he would probably think it was funny and everybody else would view it as him taking a shot. So I think those guys have respect for each other. I think they actually assist in cleaning this game up a little bit, which I think would be great for the rivalry, for the sport, because it's been ugly at times the last few years, and it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And hopefully their camaraderie, their friendship actually assists in that happening.
Well, Cole, thank you so much for joining us. And before we let you go, is there anything else that you would like to plug, give a shout out to, or tell our viewers how they can find you?
3-Man Front, 10 to 2 on jocksfm.com weekdays, at Cole Cubelic on Twitter, Egg Bowl, SEC Network, 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Tune in.
All right, man. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you and your family have a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Cole. The hardest working man in the SEC.
And that he is, the hardest working man in the SEC.
Yeah, it's always grateful to have Cole on. I like Cole's insight to things. He's got a great show over there, 3-Man Front, there on WJOX there in Birmingham. It's always great to get his insight on things. And, he's got the greatest stats during the game. So any game that Cole's covering, it's always an SEC game. But whatever game, well, it's not always, but usually it's always an SEC game. Whatever game he's covered, he's got great information. So I'm always grateful. I'm always happy to see Cole when he comes on the show. And, of course, how can we not forget the legendary, the royalty, what is Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart today. So that was great as well.
Well, with that being said, that's going to wrap up this edition of the Stingray Show on Thanksgiving Eve. I hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving out there. And don't eat too much. And as always, practice social distancing.
Hey, Steven, quick question before we get out of here. What's your favorite and least favorite Thanksgiving dish?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, wow. I don't like green bean casserole. That's my least favorite. Everyone looks at me like I'm crazy when I say that. I like it. It's just not my favorite. And I always get like put a little bit on my plate. Like, okay, I'm going to eat all this other stuff.
You got to have your veggies though, right?
Yeah. I don't want to offend anybody, but it's a green bean casserole. I'll put a little right there. I'll eat it and go about it. No, my favorite. As odd as this sounds, I'm a huge deviled egg person. I love deviled eggs. So my wife always yells at me like, "Don't eat all those." I always let everyone go through the line, and I run up there, and I love deviled eggs. I don't know why. What about you, brother?
Well, because of my gout and uric acid issue and my uric acid and gout scare a couple years ago, I will no longer allow myself to eat turkey. So this Thanksgiving, I will be having chicken thighs.
Wow, look at you going the dark meat route, huh?
Yes, and my favorite is probably dressing, and my least favorite is something that really puckers your mouth. Cranberry sauce. Cannot stand that stuff.
Oh, I love cranberry sauce. I love the cranberry sauce.
No.
Now, are you a 2-meat person? You think there should always be 2 meats, like a ham and a turkey, or chicken thighs? And yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
I'm okay with that. People are like, "Oh, you should only have 1 meat." I'm like, why can't you have 2? Why can't you have 4? Why can't we have all that we want? Hey, what's the craziest Thanksgiving thing you've ever heard as far as someone eating? Or do you have, or better yet, I'll say it this: is there a family member that brings something random to Thanksgiving?
The craziest thing that I've ever heard is what you said the other day, that you guys did shrimp.
Yeah, we did shrimp a couple of years ago. Yeah, last year actually. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, my wife comes from a huge family, so when we go to her family, we have like 3-4 Thanksgivings. And so my parents were so grateful last year. They knew that because after you start eating that stuff, it's the same stuff every stop.
Yes.
And so you're still like, oh, here we go again. So my parents said, hey, instead of doing the whole turkey thing, how about we boil shrimp? I was all about it. I was like, man, yeah, we had the corn, the potatoes, all the fun stuff. So it was big time. It was fun.
You're anti-American.
Oh no, sir. I'm a patriot all day.
All right, man. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. We hope everybody has a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving, and we will be back here on the show live next Tuesday and next Friday. Until then, we guys hope you have a wonderful and blessed week and enjoy your college football, everybody.
Don't do anything stupid on Black Friday.
Yes.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass, launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee.